What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Punk Rock Radar. Today, we're doing another one of these underrated, underappreciated, or unknown punk rock band lists. And it's been a while, so we both got five pretty good albums to talk about. I'm excited to talk to you about mine. I just saw Lewis's; he's got some great ones too. But how you doing, man?
Doing all right, just kind of living that life. It's finally starting to cool down, right? So that's nice. I don't know about you, but fall is by far my favorite season. So I'm getting psyched up for kind of a sweatshirt and short weather, which is like the ultimate dirtbag look. And it is my signature style.
I'm rocking that right now. Like I have the AC blasting for the last of it, but I always like to. I love fall weather too. But one more thing before you start, we talked about this in like episode 2 or 3 about like a companion playlist to all the songs and bands we pick, and I finally got around to doing that. So, guys, for finally, you're gonna be able to hear the songs we're talking about. There's gonna be a link down below to the playlist. So if you like anything, make sure and go down below, click it, and while you're down there, leave a thumbs up. But with that out of the way, Lewis, why don't you talk about this first album you're gonna recommend, 88 Fingers Louie?
All right, yeah. So let's talk about this. So I don't know if this album is super well known or not, but this is a band that I totally slept on. And I've been talking to John here about it for a while, about how I never gave this band a chance. And maybe it was just because I hated the name. And I will be honest, as someone named Lewis, I hate the name Louie. So it kind of gets me right in the weak spot. So, however, this album came on just on a Spotify shuffle for me. And I was like, what the hell am I listening to? And I heard some of the band before, but I don't think I gave it a fair shake. And holy crap, is Back on the Streets by 88 Fingers Louie a great album. Like a great straight late 90s skate punk, pop punk album. It is fantastic. 1998, it was released. I think the one of Pierce's 2019, because it got remastered. So definitely listen to that one if you can. It does, I guess it sounds a bit better. 88 Fingers Louie from Chicago. Maybe that's why I was a little hateful of them. But man, this album, also not what you expect from the title. Back on the Streets, I thought this was going to be a straight up like Pennywise style album, maybe a little bit harder than I expected, but it's more in that straightforward pop punk, lighter spirited. A lot of the songs seem to be about love and relationships. This is a great album. Give it a chance. Personally, my two favorite tracks are the first two, Tomorrow Starts Today and Selfish Means, I think are the two best tracks on the album. But the whole album is definitely listenable. And if this is a band that you slept on, I want you to definitely give it a try. John, I know that you know them a bit more than me. What do you think about this album?
Yeah, the first two songs are the best for me too. I think most people know 100 Proof. That was on a lot of comps back in the day. But there's another two bands while we're on 88 Fingers Louie. Fourth in Line. It is. Fourth in Line is another band in this vein. And then Jughead's Revenge is another band that I think a lot of people sleep on. I'll probably hit one of those down the road. But yeah, I like this album too. And what's the other one? It's like Up Your Ass or something. Is there other records?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think there's one called Up Your Ass. Yeah.
Yeah, just cool band. And not what you'd expect from the band or album title. Go check it out. 88 Fingers Louie, Back on the Streets. All right, so my first pick is the Swellers. This is Ups and Downsizing from 2009. And the Swellers are from beautiful Flint, Michigan. They broke up in 2015, and this is the album that came out kind of right in the middle of their career. I think they have two before this and two after. But in my opinion, this is definitely the best one. Just looking at the track listing, 2009, Fire Away. And my favorite track on here is Sleeper. It's like a near perfect pop punk song. Then you've got Do You Feel Better Yet? Even on the back half, like you guys know, I hate acoustic songs, but Stars, the way it kind of builds up, it turns into a pretty solid ballad. So I'll even pass it for being an acoustic song. And when I picked this out, I was like, oh yeah, the Swellers. Nobody ever talks about them. They're definitely underrated. But then just pulling this up now, I saw they have 112,000 monthly listeners, which is way more than I thought they would have. So maybe this is more of the underappreciated than underrated category, and I'll do my best to describe them if you haven't heard them before. I would think like if like Green Day lived in Chicago and was a little more sincere, like kind of like an core band mixed with Green Day. That's kind of the vibe I get from the Swellers. On the earlier stuff, I really like the song Bottles, and some of the later stuff is okay too, but this is really the sweet spot for them. If you're into like rock based punk or core punk, definitely check them out. Lewis, anything to say about these guys?
No, so a lot of bands that I don't know, and I guess sometimes it happens the other way too, but this band I had never heard of, and just to let you peek behind the curtain a little bit, like we keep a list of the ones we might talk about. So I saw this in your list, so I sometimes look up the artist to see if it's something I would like ahead of time, or if I might have something to add if I know the albums. And I saw the 112,000 as well, so I was pretty surprised because that definitely rivals some bigger bands that we've done, like on our rankings, right? Like it's not that far off. So this is like a pretty well liked band, I assume. So I'm definitely willing to give it a try if you say this is the best one. So I'm willing to give it a listen.
And I know you like album art, but that album art's pretty tough, man. What do you think of the
I actually like this one, and maybe I think Propaganda kind of ripped it off a little bit, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, it's really good album art.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, and Victory Lap kind of looks like not as good compared to this. I think this is awesome. This reminds me of like New Jersey.
Yeah, like the Asbury Park Boardwalk for sure, which is always coming up.
Yeah, this is awesome.
All right, but yeah, guys, that's the Swellers, Ups and Downsizing. Definitely go check out Sleeper. That's going to be the clip I have for this. But if you like it, the playlist down below.
All right, so kind of kicking back the other direction, I'm going with another album from 1998, which is Kill Your Idols. This is Just the Beginning EP. Now, this album, as much as poppy and accessible 88 Fingers Louie is, this might be the opposite. But, if you like hardcore and New York hardcore, this is definitely a fun album to listen to. This one is pretty much balls to the wall for all 8 tracks. I personally think Can't Take It Away, the opener, is the strongest track and the one that I always remembered. Kill Your Idols has a couple good albums. They were never my favorite band, but I remember this EP really fondly. I think I got to see them a few times. They were a very energetic show, really good to see. And I would be remiss if I didn't point out that on this EP, it has to be a joke that the epilogue track is not the final track on the album, which you got to appreciate that as a joke or as an error. Either way is fine. But just look at this album cover. This looks like New York hardcore. So if it's something that you're somewhat interested in and you've never listened to this album, please give it a try. So John, I know you know Kill Your Idols a little bit. What do you think? You have any thoughts on this album if you've listened to it?
I've never heard this particular album. The only Kill Your Idols I've heard is the Split with Good Riddance and Funeral for a Feeling. This one I haven't checked out, but I'll definitely check it out. And if you want to check it out, there's going to be a playlist down below, so please do so. This is Just the Beginning by Kill Your Idols.
Can't take it away from me! Can't take it away from me! Can't take it away from me! Can't take my pride!
All right, so my next pick is going to be a split. I don't know if that's against the rules. We haven't done it before, but I'm doing the Dorkatron and 7 Years Bad Luck split. Came out in 2020, which has got to be the newest release we've ever had. I don't think we've had anything like newer than 10 years on this show, but I had planned on this record. I was going to do 7 Years Bad Luck Bridges. And like Louis said before, we have a list of ones we plan on doing. And later on down the list, I had the Dorkatron record. So I figured, why not just bang them both out on a split? Because there's songs from both bands I really like on here. Like Shop Class by Dorkatron is really good. And then you got Comatose and Out by 7 Years Bad Luck, 2 of my favorite songs by them. And I could hear Matt's voice right now telling me, dude, the only good splits are Common Rider, Against All Authority, and Anti-Flag Bouncing Souls. which, fine. I personally think Kamen Rider sucks, so that one I'm putting out of here. But this has got to be one of the best newer splits, and both of these bands are pretty unknown. So just to give you like a little taste of it, like Dorkatron is kind of like a Screeching Weasel style band, like Ramones core, with their own little spin on it. And then 7 Years Bad Luck has a really interesting sound. They're like a mix of Jawbreaker and No Effects. I would definitely recommend their other two albums. The other one's called Great Big Nothing, which would be a contender for this as well. Lewis, anything to say about either one of these bands?
I don't know really either of them, but I want to chime in on the split thing. So I'm okay. The Kamen Rider Against All Authority one, I mean it's okay, but and I like both bands, but he never mentions the NoFX Rancid split. And like, I know they're just doing covers, but like, don't you recall that being like one of like the best splits ever when that came out?
He mentioned it in the NoFX tier list, and I feel like he doesn't like it. I don't remember exactly how it went, but yeah, I remember he doesn't really care for it. I mean, like
I think he's probably salty because the NoFX side is so much better, I think.
Yeah, Rancid phoned it in on that one for sure.
No, but I have no problem with a split. I think they're hit or miss, but if this one's as good as you say, like if it's up my alley, I'd definitely listen to it. And I like that you were very economical in knocking out two bands at once. So thumbs up for me.
There we go. At this rate, I mean, we're doing one of these every 2 months. So when am I going to get to album number 60 if I don't do a split?
There you go. Yeah.
So yeah, guys, if you want to check out either one of these bands, I'll probably do a clip of both, to be fair, but playlist down below.
Feels good to know the illusion of control. They're all but faceless, specks in the snow. Let's shake the world around us, making tons of nasty boxes. I think that's pretty cool.
All right, so for my third one today, I'm kind of mixing it up. This is my newest one, I think, that I'm going to be talking about today, or pretty close, is going to be 2009's Bullet Treatment Designated Volume 1. Bullet Treatment's kind of a band with a revolving door of members, as I understand it. I have a few albums out of varying stuff, but this one in particular always jumped out at me because it's 6 songs, and it's the same song, just with a different singer who's written lyrics for it and singing it with a totally different melody, generally. So it's a really interesting album to give a listen to and to see how some of the singer-songwriters you might like have interpreted the music. So as someone who was in a band and stuff, we've talked about that here and there. It's always interesting to me how people come up with the melody and write the vocals and all that stuff. So this was a really one that jumped out to me as interesting. And you can see here, came out on Fat Wreck. So we have a lot of Fat Wreck stars on here. We have Anti-Flag, Swinging Utters. We have Russ from Only Crime, but obviously at that point more well known for Good Riddance, right? Tim from Rise Against, who's probably the biggest star on here. This might have been right before Rise Against really got gigantic, right? I don't know, 2009. It's hard to gauge how big they were. And then we have Strike Anywhere, and then Sturgeon from Leftover Crack and Start Fucking Hipsters on there. So this is just a really interesting one. I can't particularly recommend any of the songs over the other one. Give it a listen and see if you can pick out your favorite. They do have a second volume of this with different arrangements as well. So if you end up liking this, there's volume 2 to listen to. John, what do you know about Bullet Treatment?
Yeah, I really like Bullet Treatment, and my favorite song by them is it's called Failed Version of Normal. It's not on one of the designated splits, but it's definitely a song worth checking out. If you like this, Chuck has another band called Batshit Crazy that might find its way onto my horror bands list. But yeah, this EP rocks. I remember when this came out. My favorite vocalist out of these would be Russ Rankin. So that's going to be my pick here. But just like on Spotify here, the Rise Against one has 10 times the amount of plays as the other. So it just shows.
I think if I had to pick one, I think that's probably the best one, though. To be fair, I don't think it's just name brand. Yeah. But the Chris number 2 is pretty good as well. The Sturgeon one is kind of what you expect. So
I can't see him putting in too much time for someone else's music, but what are you going to do? All right, guys. So that's Bullet Treatment Designated Volume 1. Go check it out down below.
Down, let me travel down into the gutters. Gasping for air, keep up with the remnant place will be replaced. In excess we surround us.
All right, band number 3 or 4, because I did a split, is going to be 5 Cent Deposit. You guys know I like my tri-state bands. 5 Cent Deposit is from Long Island, New York. They played around here, not too much that I can remember, but definitely, more than a couple times. This one came out in 2000 or actually 2002. I was going to say 01, but this is another album where Spotify has completely deranged the list here, because the first song on here is an intro. I have the CD. It's a woman leaving a voicemail on 5 Cent Deposit's answering machine saying that they need to return her daughter, which is, obviously where the album title comes from. But on this, that track is still here. That is the first track, but it's called On My Own, which is really track 2, and it's an actual song. So every song on here is up 1. So I'm going to give you my album picks, which are going to be Bird on a Wire and Pisshead. But they're actually, if you're listening on Spotify, they're Dropout and Things Ain't Fine. Like, I'm pointing this out because this album's been up here for like a decade and nobody's fixed it. It just, how do these things keep slipping through the cracks? But anyway, with that out of the way, I'm a stickler for things like this. Drives me crazy. But these guys play like 2000s pop punk, like, it's pretty by the numbers, but I really like that style. And to me, they sound like 3 bands I've already featured on the show: Lifetime, 30 Foot Fall, and Dynamite Boy. Like 5 Cent Deposit is really just a hybrid of those 3 bands. They have 2 other albums, one that came out before this that's impossible to find, but has a lot of the same songs. And then there's one that came out after this that's pretty good. Actually, might be slightly better than this one. It's a lot more polished, a little more poppy. If you like Bird on a Wire and Pisshead, which I'll put below, go check out Still Standin', December 12th, and Nadine from the one after this. Just super fun 2000s pop punk. I think a lot of you guys will dig it. But Louis, anything to say about 5 Cent Deposit from Long Island?
So this is one that I kind of know. So excited, one of the ones that you bring up. And I love this album art. This just feels like a pop punk album art, right? Like of the early 2000s. No, this was a band that I remember seeing, playing in the area. I don't know if we ever saw them. I mean, I probably did. They probably opened for somebody. Yeah, this was pretty solid. They definitely have some good tracks. I would go ahead and recommend this one as well, despite the typographical errors on the Spotify side. So once again, if you want to listen to Dropout, you need to listen to Broken Frames, right? Is that how that would work?
That's right. That's 100% right. And I'm glad you brought up the album cover, because I wanted to mention it too. Like, if that doesn't scream innerpunk.com 2001, what does? Like, that just, I could see like every other album art on Innerpunk back in like 2000 having this exact same album cover.
This has big beefcake energy too.
Again.
So I'm always in support of that. So.
All right, guys. So that's 5 Cent Deposit. If you want to check it out, the link will be down below.
Control, giving you an attitude. Ain't no cover, but you want to. And down smoking fine. Control me, blah 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 blah. Stop your fucking bitch and I'm okay. Yeah. I'm just a drug.
All right, for my 4th pick, I'm gonna call out "Walking in Shadows" from Classics of Love in 2009. I don't know, it's super well known. I feel like Jesse Michaels is like everybody's like punk rock god, sort of, anyone who kind of grew up in our age. But Jesse Michaels has quietly had a really nice career since Op Ivy. Obviously, pretty good success with Common Rider. It's Matt's favorite split of all time. And he kind of continued that with Classics of Love and this EP, and then the follow-up Full Length. Just want to recommend this one because it's definitely one my friends never really talked about. Looking at John and Matt, of course. Maybe Matt likes it, but this is kind of like a mix of kind of everything they've dabbled with in the past. It's a little bit more stripped down than Common Rider, I would think, and I think that they're kind of going with that with the album art too, which is kind of just like a abstract minimalist thing going on with some soldiers and stuff. But this is a really nice EP, kind of throw on to easy listening, kind of good driving music. I'm a big Jesse Michaels fan, so just wanted to recommend this one. John, you have any thoughts about this album, or I guess Common Rider, or Classics of Love in general? And if I had to recommend a song, it would be track 2. I like Slow Car Crash quite a bit, so go on.
Yeah, when it comes to Jesse Michaels, I'm pretty much just Op Ivy and nothing else. I've never really gotten into the other stuff. I could have sworn this was on Asian Man Records, but it looks below. It's self-released. But yeah,
I think it was. It might be like a reissue or something. I think it was Asian Man. I think you're right. But
yeah, I remember seeing this at some point, and I know Kamen Rider came up earlier. I didn't even know this was coming up today, so that's kind of a funny coincidence. But yeah, Louis is gonna recommend Slow Car Crash. That's the clip we're gonna play. If you like it, playlist link is gonna be down below.
All the dreams they taught you as a kid, come to find out they serve only the rich. Work the ruins and hope the money gods take pity on you again.
All right, guys, pick number 4 for me is going to be Enemy U. This is Stories Never Told, came out in 2004. And for a while, I really considered this to be like one of the most underrated punk rock records, but I've been seeing more and more people talk about this band as of late. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of that discussions come because the singer had passed away. So people were discovering this band for the first time. And I think that a lot of that praise coming through, it still doesn't really give this band a lot of justice. Like East and West is one of the most perfect pop punk songs that I've ever heard. I still listen to that all the time. And if you like that version, then the Bomb Pops covered it on a Red Scare compilation that came out a few years back. That's another really good cover. But the first 3 songs on here, Your Way, We Are the Ones, and These Halls, are all like iconic songs by Enemy U. And then I also want to shout out, I was having trouble deciding which one to pick. Automaton's probably the most well-known Enemy U song, and By Design from the other record. Definitely go check those out as well. And if I had to really describe the sound, it's kind of like post major label debut Screeching Weasel mixed with the Lillingtons. That's really the best I could do to describe Enemy U. But a band that I wasn't super into back in 04, but I got into later on in like 06, 07, and I still listen to these albums. I think they're pretty solid, Fat Wreck style pop punk, like Red Scare, the Copyright style. I think, if you're into those bands, in those labels, I think you definitely like this. Louis, anything to say about Enemy U?
I didn't know this band at all, so I didn't know the singer had died, but I definitely check them out. It is very close to one of my favorite sci-fi movies from 1985, which is Enemy Mine, starring Dennis Quaid and Lou Gossett Jr. And Dennis Quaid is an astronaut stranded on an alien planet with his sworn enemy, and they must learn to cohabitate. Now, I don't know if this impacted the band's name or influenced it, but if it has, this one is definitely a winner for me, John.
All right, well, now I'm going to check out Enemy Mind. And Louis, you should check out East and West by Enemy U. And if you guys want to check out Enemy Mind or Enemy U, you know where to do it. That's going to be YouTube and the link down below.
Come so far with hopes to find, and all the things you left behind. This ain't upstate New York anymore.
All right, to wrap up today, we're going back to my second favorite country for punk rock, which is Sweden. And we're going with 59 Times the Pain, End of the Millennium, which came out appropriately in 1999. So this band I first became familiar with due to, as I've mentioned many times before, as it was an important milestone, Dave Mirra's Freestyle BMX on the original PlayStation, which along with that and Tony Hawk, I think shaped a lot of people's musical childhoods, right? So that was a song that always stuck with me. I think I eventually got this off of some streaming service or Unix Punks or something back in the day to actually listen to it. Although I think this was released on Epitaph, right? Am I misremembering that, John?
I remember this band a lot on Punkorama. So I think in Sweden it was Burning Heart. A lot of these bands.
Oh, okay, well, it's all Epitaph, all right? At the end of the day, yeah. So this album is kind of like not what you would expect out of a Swedish hardcore punk band. You know, this is definitely have a working class punk rock feel to it that you would expect more maybe from the East Coast, but definitely got some Swedes in it. The definite highlight on the song and the one that they pushed and was the most popular, I think, was Got It All in Sight. So I think if anything, give that song a listen to. You're definitely going to like it. But yeah, the rest of the album is totally serviceable, and it would have been interesting to see if this band came out with anything else, but definitely a kind of a sleeper from that period of time in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I know you don't know this band at all, John, but any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard like their Punkorama songs, but that's like really it. I've never delved into the discography at all before. I'm curious now with this last song, Punk Rock College. I'm going to check that out. I'm going to check out your recommendation too. Got It All in Sight. So guys, I'm going to play a clip of Got It All in Sight. If you like it, go check out the playlist down below. Go check out 59 Times the Pain. This album's called End of the Millennium.
Sometimes I really hate myself. Keep looking down the steady appreciate all the things I have done through a life. All they want, tell a lot of shit that other people only dream of.
All right, guys, final pick of the day is going to be Goldenboy, Healing as a Team Effort, released in 2010. And I just pulled this up now, and Goldenboy only has 218 monthly listeners, which is crazy to me. This is an album that if it came out in 2002 on like Jive or Lava Records back then, this band would have been huge. Like this would blow away like 9 out of 10 of those major label pop punk albums that came out, like Simple Plan and all that. Just taking a look at the track list, it like really is my favorite holiday. That song to this day is one of my favorite pop punk songs. That's the clip I'm gonna play. Pros and Cons is another really good song on this album. And if you guys are like me or like your late 30s, early 40s, you're like yearning for the golden ages of pop punk, then Goldenboy is your ticket to nostalgia for sure. They've got like a couple other records on here that I definitely recommend. The other one is called Right Kind of Wrong. There's a song on there, What If, What Not. That's another one of my favorites by the band. And earlier this year, they mentioned they were working on a new record, but there's plenty. If you want some more recommendations, you could DM me. I love a lot of Goldenboy songs. And Lewis, I know you're a huge Goldenboy fan. I know you're one of the 218. What do you have to say about these guys?
That's not true, but I was, because I saw this come up, and I'm a big fan of the album art. So this minimalist IKEA type art really doesn't do it for me. But I Googled Goldenboy just so I could maybe have something to say. Oh, look, even Google thought I was talking to it. But these are the top results. So if anything, I agree. You're probably right. They would have been very successful. But these are the top results. So the first one is, who is Goldenboy? A man who is very successful and much admired, although often only temporarily. So we know that. And then the second top question is, what kind of anime is Goldenboy? So I'm very excited if you think they're this good and they're putting out a new album, but they definitely have to work on their web presence, because apparently this anime and some slang term is beating the crap out of them. So that is all I have to offer. Although I will notice that I will say, after those results, I do get the Apple Music and Facebook pages. So good on you, Goldenboy. You're a little bit there, but I hope that they are successful and much admired, but not just temporarily. Let's say that.
Yeah, we'll get him there. Guys, go check out My Favorite Holiday. Seriously, one of my favorite pop punk songs. We just had a Swedish band. This is a Norway band. So we're staying up there. Again, not a coincidence. Go check out these guys. I'll leave a link down below. And that's going to wrap up this episode of Off the Radar. This is number 6, I believe. If you guys like this video, let us know. We've got a couple more. Maybe we'll do another 2 or 3 this year and see what happens in 2023. But that's it, guys. Leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time.
Back to my favorite holiday. All these days just fade away. I wake up with it.